OP's parents kidnapped her and held her hostage at their home after a major car accident. I'm not OP. Posted by you, White Wolf 1,232,017. Firstly, in our relationship advice, then our entitled parents car accident backslash 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 backslash. Trigger warnings might include manipulation, medical abuse, emotional, mental abuse. Less than. First post, April 21, 2021. So, this is my first post ever on Reddit. This might be a little long, but there's a lot of backstory, so sorry. I got divorced mid-last year 2020. I started dating my current boyfriend, who is an absolute sweetheart. We both have a medical background working as paramedics. When we first started talking, he exaggerated when he had been working at the ambulance company. Yes, it was kind of a lie. But what he said was he was still working there as a full-timer when he was really on a volunteer status for some time. Kind of stupid. But not the end of the world, at least I don't think so. In January, my boyfriend had to go to the ER for some pretty nasty bleeding ulcers and was subsequently admitted. On my way home early that morning, I crashed my car, resulting in a crushed left foot, torn ligaments in the right knee, a nasty concussion, TBI, and bruised lungs. Somehow my parents found out that he had exaggerated his employment with the ambulance company, and I think they may have blamed him for my car accident. I ended up being in the hospital for about a week, undergoing 2 surgeries for my foot, and finally being able to get discharged home. A lot of this time frame I don't remember because of my concussion, but I do remember some snippets. I remember my boyfriend coming and visiting me, helping me bathe, get up to use the restroom, which is incredibly hard with both legs not working, and so on, making sure I was comfortable and everything. My mom would come and visit me a couple of days during this time period and started telling me that my boyfriend was lying to me about a lot of random stupid stuff, and started planting these lies in my head when she knew I was compromised mentally. My boyfriend and his 2 kids had been living with me and my daughter up until this point. I initially wanted to come home to all of them for my healing process, which is still ongoing almost 5 months later. My parents barged into my apartment and kicked him and his 2 daughters out of my apartment, telling my complex that I wanted them out and I had specifically asked them to take care of it. I did no such thing, since we were in the process of adding my boyfriend and the girls to my lease. This ended up in a near eviction for me and I had to go to my parents to rehab. A whole nother story, but it was hell. My parents had me block my boyfriend, and I didn't get the chance to see him again until nearly 3 weeks after I was released from the hospital, at which point I was able to talk to him and clear up all the lies my parents told me he had fed me. I realized that they had been the ones telling me lies. Now my parents have been assisting my boyfriend's soon-to-be ex-wife. They have been in the process of divorce for over a year, getting false protection orders against him, and trying to get his kids taken away from him. At first, I was wavering on who I stood behind, but my parents had started coming to my apartment, stalking me and my boyfriend, making threats against his life, and overall making it to the point where I don't feel safe in my own home because I just don't know when they are going to show up and demand me to hand over my daughter, threatening to go to my ex-husband to try and get my custody taken away, and so much more. I have since cut them out of my life, blocking their numbers from my phone, and making sure they have no contact with my daughter. But I still feel terrible completely cutting them out. Am I doing the right thing? Someone, please tell me this is the right thing or I'm being a total asshole either way. Sorry for the long threat. I tried to put as much context in as possible, but I've never done this before. TLDR. My parents have got totally bonkers and I've cut them out of my life. Am I doing the right thing? Second post, December 21, 2022. Post includes what happened above with more details. And an update. Update. I, 32F, was in a major car accident in January of 2021. Ironically, I had been taking my boyfriend, 36M, to the ER because he had bleeding ulcers and ended up getting admitted to the hospital that night. This was still when they were enforcing COVID rules, so I was booted out of the hospital at about 03:00 in the morning. When I left it was snowing, and not thinking hopped on the freeway, which wasn't a good idea. I had been driving a lifted Jeep Cherokee with mud terrain tires. Not the best ever for snowstorm driving. Getting off the freeway to go home, my brakes locked up and I went into a light pole headfirst at about 60 miles per hour. My Jeep did not have airbags. That was dumb. Needless to say, my car was totaled and I had to be extracted from the car by the fire department. This whole time I had been blacking out and losing consciousness. And I still get random flashes of I don't have all my memories from that night or several months. After the accident, I got sent to the nearest trauma center, which was the same hospital I had just left. The nurses felt pretty bad about kicking me out. I ended up with a moderate to severe TBI, broken under my left eye, hairline fractures on my skull on the left side, bruising behind my ears, and black eyes. I had also cut open the inside of my mouth, had multiple lacerations all over my face. I broke my driver's side window with my face, broke and bruised some ribs, had hairline fractures in my spine, broke my right wrist, my right knee and my left foot, which required 2 surgeries, and I still need approximately 3 more. Needless to say, I was not doing great. I had recently gotten divorced the previous year and think that my entitled parents decided that my accident was my boyfriend's fault. I had to stay in the hospital for a total of 12 days, in which case the mild family drama exploded into a severe family inferno. As I got closer to being released, all I had wanted to do was go home to my boyfriend and our kids. He had 2 previously and I had 1. My entitled mother decided that wasn't what she wanted. On the phone we sound almost identical. The whole time that I was in the hospital she had been getting on the phone and impersonating me to my apartment complex management, even going as far as calling the cops to get my boyfriend and his 2 kids removed from my apartment. They were not on my lease yet. My M also forged my signature on hospital paperwork and made up a story about how my boyfriend was abusive to me, and got him banned from seeing me at the hospital. Again forging my signature and writing a letter stating I didn't want to see him. This whole time I was still suffering from the effects of my TBI and was delirious from the combination of pain medications and brain fog from my head injury. M even had the locks changed on my apartment without my consent. When I finally was released from the hospital, I was in a wheelchair because of my broken foot that had just had 2 plates and 10 screws surgically put in to hold it together and an ankle toe hip brace on my other leg from my knee being broken. I requested to go home to my apartment, but again M played it that I couldn't go home because I had a second-story apartment and couldn't take care of myself. So I got sent to stay at my parents' house, against my will, an hour away from home because M wanted to make sure that I wasn't going to let my boyfriend come back to my apartment. I spent almost a whole miserable month there. M refused to take me home even after I got crutches and was able to bear some weight. Initially, they refused to even go get my crutches from town because they didn't want me to have more mobility. Eventually, it got to the point where I had a friend come and pick me up from M's house so I could go home, because they kept refusing to let me go. As I gained clarity in my mind and was taken off the intense pain medication, I was able to start rectifying the situations that M made a huge mess of in my life, but I'm still trying to recover in some areas. I didn't find out until much later when medical bills started coming in that M had called my boyfriend's health insurance company, impersonating me, and had me removed from his insurance. It took months of calling and badgering and footwork on my part to get the situation figured out and have the insurance pay for what they were supposed to pay for. It almost caused me to go bankrupt. At the same time, M signed me up for minimal health insurance coverage through the state that I had no idea I was enrolled in until I got a bill later stating that I back owed fees. Needless to say, I eventually completely cut both M and my father out of life after finding out how much they tried to control and how much they messed my life up. I ended up getting protection orders after they tried to break into my house, stalked me, and sent family and friends over to harass me. This whole incident was the straw that broke the camel's back. There was quite a bit of retaliation on their side that threw my life into a total tailspin ever since, but I'm sticking to my guns and not backing down. Update. Wow. I'm a little overwhelmed with how fast this post exploded yesterday. I was definitely not expecting that. I tried to keep up with as many comments and replies as possible, but I figured this might be an easier way to answer the questions that have been thrown at me. But first off, I definitely understand those who are skeptical about my post. It's more than a little bizarre, and I'm probably not the best at describing some of the situations. But I seriously appreciate all the great advice that has been given, and I'm looking at some of the other options listed in the comments as well as what I am already doing. I think the easiest part for me to clear up is the questions about the insurance and my M getting me off of the insurance I had with my boyfriend and putting me on the state insurance without my boyfriend's consent. As an adult, I can call in and cancel my coverage at any time, with or without the policyholder's knowledge. There doesn't need to be a major life change in order to be taken off of a policy. Usually just to get new insurance coverage or add someone to insurance. All my M needed was the insurance information and access to my information as well as his, which she did. She already had all of my personal information, including my SS number and my insurance information. This is how she signed me up for insurance coverage through the state as well. As some of you speculated, I'm sure it had something to do with the financial control she could exert over me, as well as trying to totally get my boyfriend out of my life. But honestly, I will probably never get the real answers to that. The reason why I didn't get the hospital bills immediately is a pretty easy explanation. First off, my car insurance coverage included medical bill payments as well, up to a certain amount of money. At first, going through the billing process, the hospital, orthopedics, anesthesiologists etc. had to send their bills through my car insurance first and then through my health insurance. I'm not 100% sure how that all works exactly, but I do know it was a mess and it took multiple tries to explain to all the doctors what was already paid out, who got what money, and the next insurance to the bill, as well as it took weeks for them and myself to realize that while I was in the hospital, the insurance I went in with got cancelled mid-hospital stay. So bills got sent out to the insurance I had to my boyfriend, which was followed by confusion from the hospital, insurance companies, and myself trying to figure out when it got cut off, what was covered and what exactly happened. This takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. My M did tell me eventually what she had done with my insurance and how she changed it, but by that point, it was too late and I was scrambling to try and rectify the situation and get as much covered from my hospital stay as possible. Even doing that, I still owe nearly $50,000 in medical bills. For those who had questions about how I had gotten on his insurance in the first place, when he started the job, he had the insurance from which we had qualified as domestic partners because of how long we had been living together and how long the relationship had lasted. For everyone wondering if we went to the cops or are filing charges or anything along those lines, it's a very long story, but yes, we are. I have a very good lawyer who actually represents myself and my boyfriend. It took me a while after I got home to my apartment to get to the point where I cut contact with them. When I finally got home, I tried to start seeing my boyfriend again, and we started the long process of trying to heal from what happened, since M had essentially kicked him and his 2 kids out of my apartment in the middle of winter. They really had nowhere else to go. The kids ended up staying with friends for a while, and he stayed in his car and rented a hotel room when possible. I wasn't fully aware of what exactly was going on at the time, as M had my cell phone and access to my phone, and while I was at her home, she watched like a hawk to make sure that I wasn't contacting him. If I did, I got berated, screamed at, and at one point did not have access to my phone, which was all very confusing because I was on very heavy-duty pain medication, as well as having the confusion from the TBI. After I had made it back to my apartment and started to have more contact with my boyfriend, my M escalated, staying at my apartment even though I told her I was fine, showing up randomly, and eventually getting so angry that I refused to cut contact with my boyfriend that she threatened to kill him. That was when I grew a slight backbone and decided that it just wasn't going to get better. At that point, I filed for a protection as well as my boyfriend, who copied my paperwork. When the first protection orders got dropped because we didn't have enough evidence, she had gotten a lawyer at this point, but we did not because we couldn't pay for a retainer. And this was before I had gotten smart enough to install cameras and a call recorder on my phone. My M went to the city's prosecutor's office and told them that she wanted to press charges of perjury against my boyfriend. This is where the friendship with the prosecutor started, and it was very hard for us to get anything to stick because M was getting in with our local PD and the prosecutor. Yes, they ended up going after my boyfriend and not me. Yes, that is selective prosecution. Yes, it is very illegal. At this same time, my mother and father are retired and apparently have nothing better to do with themselves. They had been in contact with my boyfriend's ex-wife, and at the same time we were getting beaten down with the perjury case. They also helped my boyfriend's ex-wife start a custody battle for his children. They had been separated for some time, but the divorce had been stalled in court for several years. At this point, they also filed in small claims court for lawyer and court fees after our first protection order was removed. My ex-husband had been allowing my daughter to see both of my parents still, which I did fight, and which has probably spurred the grandparents' rights visitation case that they filed during this same time. So we have been fighting one thing at a time and collecting all of the evidence that we can. All of the hospital paperwork, especially those that were forged, had to be requested from the hospital. The phone calls to the insurance company needed to be requested, and we needed our lawyer to get those. It wasn't something they were just going to give us. Unfortunately, at this point, we have waited, though almost all of the court filings my M had thrown at us, and we are finishing gathering out evidence so we can counterattack at this point. At the time, our lawyer was telling us to be patient and gather as much as we could, as when we get through the thick of it we can throw what we have into the system, but we needed and want to have enough to nail them to the wall. From here, there will be counter lawsuits, both jointly between myself and my boyfriend and separate lawsuits, as well as submitting what we have for the identity theft. It's a very long process, and it takes a lot of time, effort, and money to get things moving. For those of you wondering if me and my boyfriend got back together and how that is going, yes, we did get back together. It didn't take long for me to start realizing what was happening when I wasn't being given the heavy narcotics, and my brain started the healing process from the TBI. It did take time for me to wade through everything that happened and try and recall memories. We did get back together, found a new place, and moved back in together with his 2 kids and my daughter. We have had some hard times, and of course, we are both a little damaged from the whole process, but we both have counseling, are doing well. I hope this helps explain and expand on the questions everyone has been asking in the comments. Jesus Christ. I'm still confused about her explanation about the health insurance. So domestic partners can in fact apply for health insurance together if they prove they live together by providing a 2-partner signed lease, mortgage, deed, or joint bank accounts. But Oops said it was dependent on how long they were living together. Less than a year, since her divorce is only a year old. But okay, whatever. So if they are both on a lease, then her parents can't kick her BF out, since he and his children legally live there. Also, how her parents got her evicted from her own place is confusing to me as well. She also says that the insurance plan works if one of the people on it just call and ask to be removed from the plan. Is this realistic? I feel like the boyfriend would at least get an email describing the changes to his plan, since the insurance is provided through his job. Or get some sort of new bill, since it would presumably cost less after an adult was removed from his plan. Can someone with knowledge of health insurance explain if her story makes sense? I am very confused. Genuine question. How does someone not have airbags? I'm sure there's some way that a car could not have them. But it just seems terribly unsafe and incredibly stupid. Edit. Thank you for the car info. But I'm turning off notifications because a lot of the replies now are repetitive. Her mother pressing charges of perjury against the boyfriend? I'm pretty sure this is not a thing. Why was a paramedic doing 60 in icy conditions in a car with tires not meant for those conditions, with no airbag? If I ever want to write a story and sort through plot holes, I'll just post to Reddit for advice, lol. It was kind of a lie on employment status, rah-roh. I know it's a very small part of the story, but the BFS kids had to stay at friends' houses because they were homeless, yet her parents are helping the ex-wife get custody or try. Those kids have a mother that wants custody. Those kids would have been placed with the mother. That alone makes me think this is all BS. Never mind, they all sound unhinged, including Op. Just sounds too much, and before the first entry was just her foot is operated on, now she's got problems with her spine, etc. I've been in a car crash that messed up my spine. Crutches after a few weeks, haha. Nope. Well, we can play bingo with this post. Some of this rings really off for me. Oop is an unreliable narrator in general due to a TBI. So it's hard to say what she thinks she knows versus what is real. I'm very suspect of validity of this being real. And if it is, how much Oop is understanding correctly? What could possibly be the M's motive for this? Don't get me wrong. OOP's parents are absolutely bonkers. But I too would be wary of my child dating someone who lied, directly or by omission, about their employment and moved into their house with 2 children. After a year or less of dating, Oop might think she has a supportive partner. But I don't trust him either. Damn it. I hate reading ongoing stuff that's flared wrong. What a waste of time. That's not how any of this works. Even if mom was impersonating Oop over the phone, you can't just kick someone out into the street with no notice, lease or not. And several other things don't add up. I'm so confused from reading all this. Who even is M? This story is fing crazy and doesn't make any sense. Also, how can you be on someone insurance if you aren't married or at least legal partners? Like you have to show government documents to get on someone's health insurance. And she's barely been divorced for a year, so how are they longtime partners? Also, how do you prove you live together if he's not on the lease? Her boyfriend is lying about a lot of little things. But lying about your job isn't a little thing. If he's not a full-time EMT, then what is he doing for work? Does he pay bills? Volunteering doesn't pay the bills. This story doesn't make any sense. If you corrected the issue with insurance, then why does the bill still come out to $50,000? I have been to the hospital, they check you insurance immediately. And if there are any issues, the insurance will tell them they will not cover XYZ. She was there for 12 days. And they didn't say anything about how she's not on his insurance anymore. Huh? I'm confused. Yeah, so I got 2 paragraphs down and started skimming. And I don't feel like I missed anything. BC, this story is a mess. I am a little lost in this. They say they are domestic partners. But the boyfriend just doesn't show up at all in this. They are domestic partners, but the hospital wouldn't let the boyfriend see them? They're on boyfriend's health insurance but let the Oop get taken by their parents? How did they even know they were their parents? They didn't get consent from the Oop to release them? As domestic partners, the boyfriend still doesn't have the legal right to protect their partner from getting kidnapped? Honestly, I'm still skeptical. I can't imagine any insurance company or state considering Oop a domestic partner after not even a year of dating and just beginning to live together. Edit. And him still being married. She also says that it's through his job, but what volunteer gets insurance through the company? Plus, if she has a job and a kid, why doesn't she have her own insurance? There's also no mention of if this behavior is typical of her parents. I just can't imagine that this is a first for them, and if it's not, then Oop is in extreme denial that I can't see her ever truly breaking contact with them. Oop is a giant red flag. She starts seriously dating someone after just getting divorced. She has him move in with her and her daughter after not even a year of dating. She can't stand up to or even recognize her parents' extremely abusive and toxic behavior. And she's not even talking about suing them for abuse, kidnapping, and fraud. If her ex-husband didn't seem worse for allowing his kids near the villainous grandparents, I'd say that Oop should lose custody. It's terrifying to think that someone who's so incapable of protecting their own best interest is responsible for a child's. If OOP's parents did all this to her, I can't imagine what they did to her daughter while Oop was staying with them. I hope the boyfriend realizes soon just how messed up Oop is and protects his own kids from her toxicity.
If you enjoyed this video, Please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Aircast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.